Thank you for coming, and different ones of you have different levels of familiarity or introduction to Iron Rose Sister Ministries and who we are and what God is doing in and through us. So I'm going to give some shout outs and some thank yous in a little bit, but especially for those that don't know as much of who we are, what we're doing, Iron Rose Sister Ministries exists to equip women to connect to God and one another more deeply. And I have had the privilege and the blessing of being able to see that need that women have and long for, those authentic relationships in which we can be encouraged in our spiritual walk. If you happen to be, some of these ladies happen to be in Anessa Westbrook's section about women's ministry and about mentoring, it is about walking with each other in those spiritual walks and having those spiritual conversations with significant intentionality of walking with each other one step closer to our God and Father. And so we do this in a lot of different ways, and we do it all across the Americas. I like to call Spanish my nerdy passion and God my first one. And then Portuguese is my new one. So those are the three languages that all have that same vision. So when we first started out, everything was in English and Spanish. And then it's been in the last 5 years that things have really expanded and exploded into Portuguese. The words on this slide are in Spanish, but the pictures on this slide are from Brazil, Cuba, and Colombia. And you'll get to see lots more pictures and hear lots more stories with that. So how we do this equipping, we do it through in-person and virtual events. There is nothing that replaces in-person. There is nothing that I don't know how strongly I can state that. And if we are to do the modeling of teaching to teach to teach, 2 Timothy 2:2, if we are to be able to be walking with one another in our spiritual walks, if we're to be equipping women to connect to God and one another more deeply, we have to first focus on that relationship with Him and that relationship with each other. And so there is nothing that replaces in person. This is from the trip in March to the 5th of the 5 major regions in Brazil. This is the Amazon region, and we have seen so much multiplication through what is already being done in Brazil and in the Portuguese language. For those of you that have not been with us as long, we didn't know that the Portuguese language was what was going to take us to Africa, but we have our resources being printed and distributed in Angola and Mozambique through one of our partner organizations as well. God's just that big. That's how He thinks of things. But we cannot do all of what we would love to do. And so we have empowered them with those resources to do what they're doing and the equipping there. And our focus is across the Americas. So this is one example from Brazil. This is an example from a different part of South America. This was in Bucaramanga, Colombia. For some of you in here, you might recognize the face of a few Venezuelans, like Fabi Gomez, Luis and Fabi, who are there. They're the same couple that I worked with church planting in Caracas, Venezuela, many years ago. And so it's such a blessing when in those kinds of relationships, we can continue to deepen those mentoring relationships. And Fabi is one of our speakers and inventory ambassadors and all these other things that I'm going to tell you about in just a moment. There's also a tremendous need here in the U.S. for those in-person and virtual events. This is at the Iglesia de Cristo Impact, the Impact Church of Christ down in Houston. This was just earlier this month. This was 120 women, 12 of which were visitors. And tremendous opportunity for us to be there and equipping them. And what it is that Claudia, who is one of the leaders in the women's ministry there, she was already familiar with who we are and what we do. And she said, okay, I'm on this committee of intercongregational fellowship amongst the women, amongst the churches of Christ in the Houston area, amongst the Hispanics. And she said, I have seen and know what y'all do and how you do it, that it's not just oh, okay, that was a nice talk at a ladies' day. No, but it's much more interactive. We get the women into small groups after each session. Susan Brownfield's back there nodding because we were just at the Goodman Oaks Church of Christ in South Haven, Mississippi, and did a bilingual event there. We love to be able to be a bridge between two different language groups that meet in the same building or in the same area, but maybe don't know how to do that. And so the opportunity here in the U.S. is tremendous. The hunger for that is tremendous. And Claudia, her invitation was, okay, will you come do an event here? Will you speak for our Hispanic women and do it y'all style? I want them to experience y'all style because that's what we need. We need that kind of example, and we need that kind of a facilitating of where that transformation and those relationships really happen in small groups. So that leads me to my next point that I'm going to get ahead of myself on. This is our next trilingual event. It's virtual, and sorry guys, you're not invited. But we will be singing, reading scripture, praying in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. It may sound chaotic, but it is beautiful. It is beautiful. We all join together as one voice in love for the Father and love for his people and being able to just delight in that together. So ladies, I encourage you to come to this, to be a part of this. If you would like to volunteer to read a verse or to say a prayer or to lead a song, we would love for you to do that. And if you're like, I'm not sure how that would work, come check it out. You'll see how beautifully it really does work. And I love that with the theme this year for lectureship, with the theme of oneness, that's a lot of what we model, is bringing together that oneness across 3 different languages and a lot of different cultures. Because we're not just talking about an English-speaking culture. I mean, just imagine the culture of the church maybe that you grew up in and the culture of the church where you are now. Kind of different. And so you can imagine how we strive to partner with that local congregation and really work with them in how we can best equip and encourage the women in their local church. That's a key piece of that. And so I mentioned something earlier about small groups. And I mentioned about what we mean by small groups is anywhere from 6 to 8 women. 5 or 6 is the sweet spot. But it can be hard, if you have any more than 8, for women to be able to actually speak up, to be able to feel comfortable and able to comment and to engage with what you're talking about. But anywhere from 3 to 10, definitely the maximum, is what we're talking about. We're not talking about small groups as many churches talk about small groups, that is like a house church. It's like a whole church with all of that many people. We're talking about a smaller group of women that is getting together in meaningful Bible study and being in the Word together, being in prayer together, and to serve as iron sharpening iron. That's where the whole name of the ministry comes from, because we want those kind of Christian sisters that can be like iron sharpening iron, encouraging us to be as beautiful as a rose, no matter what color rose it is, in spite of our thorns. And so the interactive Bible study books, in the brochure that you have on your table, there is an insert, and in that insert is a description of all 7 of those small group Bible study materials. All of those are available in English and Spanish, and our 3rd book released in Brazil when we were there this spring. And we're working on the 4th one right now. It's the one that has become the most popular this year. It's entitled, Who Has the Last Word? Cutting Through Satan's Lies with the Truth of God's Word. And it's actually one of the books that you see here in this box of books that these women received as part of our BOGO program. I'm sorry, this is not a buy one, get one free. No, this is a buy one, gift one. You pay half again for the cost of the book you're purchasing, and we make sure that that book gets to the hands of someone who, for various reasons, financial difficulties in their country or in their own lives, they are not able to purchase it. Although we do have them have some amount of buy-in, even if the equivalency ends up being a penny. But there needs to be some buy-in and some connection with what it is they're making a commitment to be able to get into and dig into the Word on and study. Oh yeah, I could go off on stories like this for days. So, but if you are traveling to any of the countries in and around Latin America. In Brazil, we print and distribute there in country. So, and we're able to, through a School of Theology and publishing company there, Ebenezer, in Recife, for those of you that are familiar at all with Brazil, we are able to have them help with all of that distribution, which is a huge blessing. But in the U.S. and across Spanish-speaking Latin America, then we have people take the materials down like in their second suitcase, because it helps keep that overhead cost down, and it just makes things run a lot more smoothly. So please reach out to us if you're going somewhere and would be willing to take some books down. We have inventory ambassadors in those countries that are able to keep a little bit of some stock, and it's hard for us to keep enough stocked for the right books on hand in order to equip all the women that are hungry for that. But it's a delight when we're able to do that and to make that happen. We also have a lot of online resources, audio, video. Here you can see, like in the U.S., a lot of people connect from their laptop. That's just what they're on and what they're connected with and what they're aware of. But in Latin America, everyone connects much more through their phones. And so the way we have our websites laid out, they're very versatile for either formats. And we have a great way for you to interact with the material, to share those resources, especially with someone in Latin America. And we have some how-to things. For example, in Spanish, we've got how to start a women's ministry, how to facilitate a small group Bible study, how to prepare a ladies' class, and things like that. There are more of those resources available in the U.S. in English. And so we have focused a lot of our efforts where there's a greater need. Up until, I don't know, a year or two ago, up until recently, our websites, all three of them, English, Spanish, and Portuguese, all three of them paralleled each other. Because whatever we were offering in English, we were also offering in Spanish, and then we were building that of all of what we were offering in Portuguese. Up until about a year or so ago, we said, no, we need to adapt each of the different websites to the needs of that primary audience. And so that was when we're like, okay, we can keep up with it now, keeping a little bit more separate in those ways. So the English site is very much for the needs of English-speaking women. The Spanish site is very much more catered to the needs of Spanish-speaking women. So like if you go, like if a woman is looking on, a Spanish-speaking woman is looking at the menu, she can look at all the different types of resources, and we have, not only we have their Bible study books, but we have some free resources, and we have these Bible study series. And so these Bible study series are, some of them are professionally produced, some of them are as we have been able to produce them along the way. But they are series of classes that they can use for their own Ladies' Day, or they can use as a small group way of facilitating a Bible study. And then it has handouts there that are also available so that they can dig deeper beyond what that video resource is. One of the most exciting things that is, it's a highlight for a lot of people, is our blog. It is, the people that contribute to that are women that are English speaking, Spanish, and Portuguese speaking. Don't worry, our team provides the translation. And for this, we don't use AI or anything like that because, again, we're a relational ministry and there are way more nuances than a lot of the technology is able to keep up with yet. I don't know, but I'm a huge proponent of people to people. Especially for the kinds of things that we are wanting to be able to, that are communicated scripturally, foundationally, practically, and relevant to that local audience. And so we do some of the filtering sometimes if there's too much of an idiomatic expression, or if there's too much of an example that it's like, okay, let's find a relevant example in Spanish or in Portuguese for something that someone is illustrating here in the U.S., things like that. So we've got a great group of ladies that helps make that happen. One of the other things that we do is through mentoring discipleship. I mentioned earlier Fabi Gomez. She's the one in the middle of this picture, and she's someone with whom we've had a mentoring relationship for many, many years. And she is now, like I said, one of our speakers. She has the biggest amount of our inventory in the country of Colombia, and she is just even very recently was helping get some books to another city there that was requesting books that are needing them from our BOGO program, because it is a very, very low resource rural community, but that is very hungry to equip their women. The other young lady in the picture is Maggie, and she has been doing a lot of things with graphic design with us, but it's been a tremendous opportunity kind of to intern her in ministry and in missions and in how she can use her gifts and passions towards a kingdom impact. So that has been really exciting and really fun, and because she speaks Spanish, I took her with me to Colombia. And while I was there in Colombia, the ladies are like, oh, who'd you bring this time? Because anytime you go anywhere, you're going to at least bring one person with you. And I said, I'm glad you know that about me. Because that's that mentoring. That's that teaching to teach to teach. That is the way in which we can be iron sharpening iron and help each other to grow, especially in those kingdom ways. And so, what we have been doing organically as a ministry since the very beginning, we are now rolling out in a more replicable, sustainable model through what we are calling our ambassadors program. And if you're looking at this and going, I'm a little confused, here's why. That Maggie helped get the design for me, so that's why I had to give her a shout out before. This is our English ambassadors, right? This is our Spanish ambassadors. And these are our Portuguese ambassadors. So it has the name of the ministry in each of its different branches. That's why it's Iron Rose Sister Ministries. And so with our different ambassadors, we are all, men or women, we are all called to be ambassadors of Christ. 2 Corinthians 5:20. But we as women are called to teach in and amongst women. And many women lack the resources or the example to know how to do so. And so this is in the way that we have been equipping women all along. We're wanting to equip more of the equippers of equippers of equippers. And so just kind of to that next level of those that are stepping into the need. They are also seeing it, and they want to be equipped to know how to meet it in a way that helps just multiply the impact and the effort and the resources. Sounds like Jesus' model. We're in good shape then. Okay, so I'm going to tell you 3 quick stories. Well, 2 are quick, 1 is going to be longer with more pictures. Okay, so this is Danielle Joseph. She is actually one of the student speakers that is going to be doing a class on Wednesday afternoon. And she is going to be doing an official internship with us this next spring through Harding. She and I met here in the U.S., but she's originally from Trinidad. And we have been wanting to connect, and we've been building a relationship, and we've both been wanting her to kind of work with us more. She's been one of our volunteers since we first met. But she's ready to take that next step in being mentored in women's ministry so that she and her husband, when they head back to Trinidad, can multiply those efforts, and she can be an equipper of women's ministry equippers. And with what we're doing in the next step with our ambassadors equipping workshop, she is going to be then the one that's going to help spearhead. We're not putting a specific date on this, but she'll be the one to help spearhead our Caribbean Women's Equipping Workshop. Pretty cool how God works and He orchestrates it at the right time and the right way. And so her coming in right as we're setting up and getting everything lined up for our first Ambassadors Equipping Workshop in English in February. And it's by invitation only because we can't do all of it all at once. We're equipping those that then will multiply out and equip others. And so that first workshop is going to happen here in the U.S. in English in 2026. In 2027, the Spanish one will happen. In 2028, the Portuguese one will happen. And at some point along the way, the Caribbean one will happen, but this will be that kind of ongoing rotation on a certain level, and then it's going to multiply out because that's where and how God has set this up for us in general, but how he has affirmed that we're meeting a tremendous need in and amongst women in all 3 languages, in all those different countries, and just to the glory of God and the growth of his kingdom. So, Danielle, as we're looking at even some of our English and U.S. resources, she's going to be helping us look at it through the lens of English speakers that can be equipped still across the Americas, but not necessarily living in the U.S. So we're very excited about that part of it. Okay, now I'm going to go over to Liliana. Liliana has also worked with us for many years. She was my Spanish-speaking research assistant for the One Single Reason book, Conversations with Single Women. And she and I have partnered together. I've mentored her and worked with her for a lot of years. She has also been one that has helped facilitate a lot of our small group Bible studies in person and virtually. She's one that we have other women that want to lead a virtual small group Bible study using our materials. We have them talk to her through some of that, and she can encourage them as well. She's awesome, and she was the backup speaker for one of the locations where I was going to be last July in Colombia, in Zipaquirá, just outside of Bogota. Except I got really, really sick. I had an allergic reaction to an antibiotic, and the morning I was supposed to be going and leaving on an airplane, I was in a hospital bed. And everybody who was seeing me at that time or whatever was like, it was a scary situation, I admit. And so all of the aspects of that trip, from my perspective, had to be either canceled or postponed, except because Liliana was so ready and had already been so equipped, she stepped up and said, oh yeah, I can take this conference and run with it because, oh yeah, I'm ready to do this. And she did. And that's the whole idea. That's the whole idea. Now I'm going to go to our Irmãs. This just means sisters in, and Manaus is the capital of the Amazon state of Brazil. So like I mentioned, that was the 5th of the 5 major regions in Brazil that we now have been equipping and encouraging women with our resources. So when we were there in March, this young lady and her mom and their 2 friends, this young lady bought herself a set of the 3 books that we had available in Portuguese, and she purchased a set to give to one of each of them. And then those ladies decided, you know what? We need to get a group of us together, and we need to go through one of the books together. We need to not try and do different ones at once. We get it now. We got equipped through the workshop, through the Ladies' Day, and other things that we did while we were there. Now we need to do that with a small group, so that then each of those women can start their own small groups with another book. These ladies also said, you know, the men keep talking about how they go into the more remote Amazon regions and how they are traveling from Manaus, the capital. They go into a really remote Amazon region and they're preaching. They're rotating who preaches out there. And they said, wait a minute, who's going out there and teaching the women? We need to do that. And you've just given us some of the tools and the ways and inspired us that we can do that. So, this was their first meeting. Look at how beautifully they decorated and set it all up. They had it all laid out to where each woman had her own book there. They gave them little pens. I mean, it was they made it a whole little tea for them to then start meeting together. Then, for their last meeting, look at what they did. They had, this is it's almost like butcher paper. They rolled it out on the table, and then they wrote different prompts. Because the book was called to listen, they wrote different prompts about, what have you heard from God? And then the ladies would answer. What is God telling you? What does God have to tell you? That he wants to tell you. Anyway, and then they would write their answers, and they had beautiful pictures. They had also in the background there, They had some of the other like big overarching things that they had been hearing together and joining together. It's been so beautiful. And these same 7 women are each about to be starting a group themselves with about the same size, studying the book Human and Holy now. Amen. This is what we're talking about, and this is what it's all about. I am very pleased and relieved, but also getting through the growing pains of our new staff as well. Up until December of last year, I was the only full-time staff, and that has been a lot to keep up with. We now have 3 full-time staff, and so this is me. I'm not wearing the exact same shirt, but it's really similar. This is Lindsay, who lives in North Carolina, who is married to a Brazilian. She was down in Brazil for 7 years getting a nonprofit started there. She actually has her PhD in organizational leadership from Pepperdine, so she brings a lot to the table from that perspective. This is Corinne. She lives in Peru, and but is of Haitian origin, and she has been a missionary there in Cusco, Peru for many years, and she's now using her different talents and things that she took from being a nurse into more full-time ministry, where she can have some of the more spiritual conversations that she couldn't have from her nursing background. So these are the 3 of us that are full-time. Then this is our Brazil coordinator, Belisa, and if you see my phone, it probably has a picture of her son, who calls me Granny M, or he will. We can actually talk. He's only 3 months old now, so, you know. But anyway, so this is our Brazil coordinator, who's doing a fantastic job, and this is Ayani, our Brazil assistant, who is helping keep all of these things straight. We were able to get her in place before Belisa needed to go on maternity leave, because important things to be trying to juggle, and that's been great. This is Susie Noah, who is actually sitting right here. She is our new fundraising coordinator, and if you already know something about Iron Rose Sister Ministries and are excited about it, she would love to hear what you're excited about and love to talk with you more about just different opportunities to partner with us. This is Francia. She's Colombian. She is our creative assistant that helps get a lot of things, makes them pretty to send them out. This is Judy. She's also sitting over here. She works in our office, but she's also our inventory manager. So when I said that about getting books to different people in different places and trying to get them to she tries to keep track of all of that and follow all my scribbled notes when we're trying to keep track of how we can get the right books to the right people, and it's awesome. But Corinne, I didn't mention, she is our ministry coordinator, so she helps coordinate a lot of our volunteers, helps communicate with different congregations that are hosting an event or wanting to put on an event, because again, that in-person really makes a difference, and giving women that opportunity to use their different gifts and talents through some of those kinds of events really facilitates what we're also talking about. This is Juana. She works right over there in the dean's office, but she also just helps pick up the mail and deposit the checks. That makes a difference. And then Hannah Hackworth, who's also here in Searcy, she helps take what's been made pretty and sends it out into the world. Kind of a virtual assistant kind of thing. So it's a tremendous opportunity. We've got some women that work with us like just a few hours a week, but it's a great opportunity for her to be able to use her gifts and her passions. And I can't even begin to tell you about how many different volunteers we have, who many of which are sitting in this room. One of them was teasing me earlier because she helps get some of the brochures all ready and together that you're now seeing on your tables. So it makes a difference. Some of our other future plans in 2026, we have a number of international trips already on the calendar and already in their final stages of confirmation. And actually this trip to Honduras, I was texting with one of the people just a minute ago, and I was like, okay, we're gonna have to get this sorted out later. I got to talk to some people about what we're going to be doing there in Honduras and in some of the other places. So this is like over the next year. And this isn't all of them, but these are the ones that we know for sure. And again, in any and all of these places, it's not just one woman going and doing. One of the things I did not mention about the ambassadors program is that we have people that are at different levels of that. We have people that are apprentice ambassadors. There may be going to be speaker ambassadors, but they're just learning. They're observing, they're learning, they're having some opportunities along the way. And then we have active ones. Okay, they're good, and we can send them, and this is awesome, and we can make sure that the right support is there for them. And then we have mentoring speaker ambassadors that are then being able to help others that are at that apprentice level know how to do that and how to implement that in and wherever it is that they are called to serve and called to speak. One of our one of the points of emphasis, it's the beauty of languages. There's always more than one way to say something. But one of the points of emphasis that we are really focusing on through the end of this year is to go wider, and to go wider with our roots. And what that means is that we need the root and the foundational base from a financial and from a prayer perspective in order to then bear fruit. And so we would love for you individually, you at your congregation, or in whatever way, to consider partnering with us or increasing your partnership with us as we go wider with that root base. We also are very grounded and foundational in going wider in the Word, but there are so many applications to going wider with those roots, keeping connected to the vine and bearing fruit. 2026, our theme is actually bear fruit from John 15. And it's also the foundation for our equipping workshop materials and all kinds of other things. There are lots of implications, but we can't do what we're doing without your prayers. We have a lot of tremendous prayer warriors, and we count on them, we value them, and we look for more opportunities to help share with them what really is going on and what they really can be praying about. We also are looking for financial partners. If you're new to Iron Rose Sister Ministries, you can scan the QR code or fill out a yellow paper. If you already are connected with us, we would love for you to continue to volunteer and to get more connected. And if you are wanting to just update some of your contact information, or you just want to enter the drawing to win a free book that we're going to do this week, you can do that. If you are wanting to consider financial partnership with us, we also, Ted Hackney is recently retired from Harding University's advancement office. And he is our planned giving advisor, and he would love to talk with you about how you can, basically how you can make your money work better for you and for kingdom impact without affecting the pocketbook bottom line. Reach out to him. We have some of his cards at our table. We also, his email address is right there. Susie's email address is right there. She's got some of her business cards. Any of us that work together would love to help answer any questions and to be able to provide more resources and God stories and examples and all of those things, whether here in this classroom, I'm about to open it up for some Q&A or discussion at our booth that will be there the rest of this week, or beyond that, which you have all the contact information there on your brochures. So, any thoughts, comments, questions? I just did a whole lot of talking. Yes, ma'am.
Can I get your name, please?
Yes, I would love to give you my name. That would be kind of key, wouldn't it? I'm Michelle Goff, and if you flip in that brochure, I'm the face with the name right there. So I am the author of all of our different Bible study materials, and until we reach some other point in which we can have the infrastructure to support other authors, I'm going to continue to be that author. We function as a 501c3 nonprofit, so we have a board of directors. And until the board says, okay, yeah, we're ready to jump into this and we can take on more authors, that's where we're going to stay for now. But we do have a lot of writers. And if you're understanding my difference. So we have different blog writers, we have different other writers that contribute to some of the other things that we do. And we have a former board member in here today as well. But I'm Michelle Goff. Thank you for asking. Minor detail.
You said it all.
I did. Well, maybe what I would also maybe like to hear is if there are any affirmations about how you have seen this work or how much you see this needed or why you think this is how we're meeting this need for and amongst women. I just even to just interact with some of the things that we've been talking about.
Well, we've hosted Michelle and Iron Rose in our multicultural congregation at Antioch Church of Christ in Nashville. We did a ladies' day a few years ago, and it was so well done, incredibly professional, and very engaging for all of our women. And we're always integrated. We're not two separate congregations, and so that fit right into what we needed with English and Spanish. So yeah, I would highly recommend their ladies' day. The blog is great, English and Spanish. I haven't read it in Portuguese, but yeah, it's just a great resource. The books as well. We have many of them on our bookshelf. So yeah, I can't say enough great things about you.
Well, spoken very well as that former board member I was referring to. Thank you, Sarah.
We get your newsletters yet, and even though I'm not on the board anymore, it's very encouraging to hear your news from month to month, and yeah, we'll keep you all in our prayers. So,
and we appreciate that.
Very proud of you.
Thank you. God's doing some awesome things, and yeah, I appreciate that. And one of the other things when Sarah mentioned about our blog is it is also a great resource, even just for someone who's a lady that's wanting to do a Bible study on something. She can go to our blog on our website, type whatever that topic is in the search bar, and then she can find some blog entries. And what we have been doing over the past couple of years is we have first a Bible story or a Bible scriptural-based reflection and study on something, and then a God story, kind of a personal story that brings that scripture and that example and that focus into connection. And it's not that they don't each have an element of the other, but it really helps because women, we are very relational, and we need to see and understand how the gospel lives out in our daily lives. And many times if we don't take the moment to share those examples and realize, hey, I'm not alone in this struggle. I'm going to quote my mom on this one, but she was reading one of our blog entries from someone in Brazil the other day, and she said, I knew that because of your work with Spanish speakers, but it's so beautiful to see that these Brazilian women are dealing with the same things too. We really have more in common than we do not in common. And so it's a tremendous resource, and it's a tremendous encouragement for those. And so you can sign up to get that into your email once a week, or you can go to our website at any point and just click on resources blog and read up on that. Or get some good Bible study ideas. We actually had a group of women from what we affectionately say from the island, because of the way that things are restricted there on that particular island that I showed a picture of earlier. Then we aren't able to talk about or share things in a more public way, but we are doing a lot to really equip and encourage and empower women in their spiritual walks across that island, and are very privileged to be able to step into that and to meet that need, and for them to know that we are doing so. It was back when I was here. So I can't tell you the stories from there, but please know how much we are going to do any and whatever we need to do to help spread the gospel and to help equip and encourage the women. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wanting to ask you about how many Portuguese-speaking people are here in the U.S. that are helping or know about this.
That's a great question. We are connected with a number of different, there's a There's a bilingual Portuguese-English work down in South Florida that we've worked a lot with. They actually hosted our first Portuguese event that we did as a hybrid event. We did it in person there in South Florida with that congregation that's bilingual, Portuguese and English. And we had it kind of simulcasted to a lot of women that were connected in Brazil. And so it was actually our first launching of an event in Portuguese happened in the U.S. being sent there. It was really cool. So, and then also one of our newest board member is, she grew up in Brazil and she's very connected with a lot of the different missionaries and other, we actually have a Brazilian and 2 former missionaries to Brazil on our board of 7 right now. So, as our reach has grown there in the country, we are also expanding our reach to allow more of the Portuguese-speaking and Brazilian women here in the U.S. to also be able to be blessed by these resources. Yeah.
I just know, and I'm from Montana, but in Glendive, Montana, there's a lady that was from Brazil, spoke Portuguese, and she had become a Christian through her husband.
Yeah.
Down there, and I know she still has family there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give her these resources.
Absolutely. And there's a Portuguese copy of the brochure on our table that we would love to share with you. And so last year, the first book that was simultaneously released in all 3 languages happened, which is no small feat. It meant that there were 3 different pilot studies going on. It meant that there were all kinds of other things to be able to launch these at once. But one of the beautiful things about the way that we do intentionality with the resources is that, for example, if she lived near you, she could have her Portuguese book while she's studying it. You could have your English book while you're studying it. And then you could get together and discuss things together while you're going through and studying it on your own in your soul language. And so we have that happen a lot with English and Spanish speaking groups. We've got some people that could tell you success stories from where and how they've done that in their local congregation and what that has done to strengthen the connections between the women, and it's just deepened their relationships with God and seeing how big God is. He's not limited to one language or one group or one anything. So that's something to tuck in the back of your mind for an idea of how a lot of that happens as well. Very cool.
She's a great lady.
I would love to connect with her.
We used your resources when we were doing mission work in Chile. And one of the beautiful things is that the resources are so well done. You can give them to a group of ladies who they attended the workshop,
Yeah.
right? And then they ran with it. Some groups, went through it, 1 chapter per meeting, and others, it took them 6 months or a year to get through one book. But what they were doing was building those relationships with each other and centered around spiritual conversation. It's beautiful.
Thank you. They are designed to be simple enough for anyone to lead, but deep enough for everyone to grow. And so one of the things that Tay was bringing up is that it's designed that you rotate who facilitates the discussion each week. And so again, you're building up those and you've got somebody that's like, there's no way I can do this. I have talked so many people through, there's no way I can do this. Well, that's okay, because God will take care of it. And you're just like, here are some questions you can read and then just keep going through. And I'm telling you, those ladies that start out the most nervous are the ones that fast forward. I have names and faces flashing through my head from all kinds of places. That now are the ones that have taken and run with that, and they're the ones that are making sure that women that they see at church that they don't think are connected are invited to the group that now she's become like the one that gets the leader that gets all the women together. Okay, what are we going to study now? Okay, let's do this. Okay, we can do this. And one of them stopped by the house just the other day to pick up a book, and I turned to Judy afterwards and I said, okay, You know how nervous you get about this? She used to be even more nervous than you that she couldn't do this, and now look at where she is. So, yes, ma'am.
I love how like all this is like really spread out and everything, and I was wondering how like what Spanish speaking places have you visited or like had an impact on?
All 19 Spanish speaking countries in Latin America, over 2/3 of the U.S. states, and all 5 major regions of Brazil, and 3 of the Portuguese speaking countries in Africa. You're welcome. Good question that I knew. Hey, you ask me the questions that are easy. My name is Michelle Goff. But that the answer to your second question was, it's all because, I mean, like, we have actually only existed for 12 plus years. We're in our 13th year right now. That is a lot for God to do through a relatively small organization in a relatively short amount of time. But that's how he works, and how much he has affirmed time and again that we are meeting a tremendous need. So, before we dismiss, I'm going to ask Goyo, actually, if he would lead us in a prayer.